20 minutes to 8. Welcome back to Sunrise City, where we start today talking about election. Well, not the general election or state governorship election. This is the by-election that took place in Ondo State, which INEC declared inconclusive, by the way. Well, we're joined now by Mr. Akin Orebiyi, who is the Resident Electoral Commissioner in Ondo State. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, this by-election, which Ilaja SL, the federal constituency, held on that Saturday at the time, INEC declares it inconclusive. Yes, that much information is out there now, but just give us a background. What exactly transpired on the day?
Well, simple. Maybe I should begin from how it ended and then lead it to how we began. Because the issue has been the inconclusive nature of the election itself. It's not as if there was any particular problem when you say an election is inconclusive. It simply means that we could not declare a winner because the margin of votes between the leading candidate and the next candidate is smaller than the total number of registered voters that do not have the opportunity to cast their votes on election
That's
day.
From the results so far?
Yes, so far. Okay. What happened was that in a number of places, it was not possible to hold election on that day, and simply because politicians went abroad with violence, with underhand methods, wanting to disrupt the entire process. So, and in such places, if, for example, your ballot materials are stolen, next thing is to cancel the election there. Or if the thugs invade your polling station and then polling officials are to run away, you cannot return any results in such places. As such, it was not possible to have results or conclude election in number of polling units. And when you add up the total number of registered voters in such polling units, if the number, and in this case, number did exceed the margin between the leading candidate and the second candidate.
What's the number in this case?
In this case, the total number of voters that could not vote is over 28,952. 28,952. And the margin of votes between the leading candidate and the second candidate is less than 1,003, which implies that had even 30% of those who couldn't vote on that day had voted, the results might have been different. The intention of that particular guideline by INEC is to dissuade politicians who want to employ wrong means to get a result, to win the election. Because what I mean by wrong means is that at times when a politician or a party realizes it's not particularly strong in the place and that the opposition might win that place, it causes chaos in that place.
But doesn't the Electoral Act or your manual address this problem?
The manual addresses it. It's there. It's very clear there. And even for this particular by-election, on Tuesday, April 1, we still brought the party agents together at Igbokoda to train them, to lead them through the manual and what's expected of them on election day.
You know, what I find amazing is that we're doing these elections just in 2 local government areas.
Yes.
And still, you know, some of the issues that you will witness in a major election were still witnessed in these 2 local government areas. Didn't INEC anticipate some of those things?
I'm not too sure you understand what is at stake here. I'm sorry. It's not about INEC. It's about politicians resorting to wrong means. INEC, for the first time, I can say, but I've been in Ondo State for 3 years now. I conducted 2011 elections, 2012 governorship, and this one. If you compare the 3, this has been the best out of the 3 so far. We were at practically every polling unit before 8 in the morning. As the journalists, as the politicians, as the parties. That was it. Just a minute. That was precisely what happened in this particular case. So in terms of logistics or anything, INEC was on top of the situation on April 5.
In terms,
now,
just a minute.
No, because you asked a question. I'm sorry, Arubo 2, for example, our men were at the racks by 5:30 about to leave. They were surrounded by militants. What does INEC do in such a case? I got an SOS. We started phoning around, and then Navy even came around to talk to the militants, to appeal to. They refused. They said they had not benefited from amnesty program, and therefore they will not allow election to take place in the whole world. What does INEC do in such a case?
My question will be,
yes,
my question is, by anticipating, I'm just wondering if you can predict as an organization whether or not elections are likely to be violent in a particular situation, or if you already have an idea of where your hotspots will be and what you will do with security agencies. So much as INEC has that provision for, ensuring that politicians are discouraged or dissuaded from violence, but in cases where you think that these areas are prone to violence or will be hotly contested, do you also collaborate with security agencies and put them at alert?
Of course we do. To be sure, there is no particular place in the entire country that is not a hotspot with the nature and conduct of politicians. They render every single place unsafe.
There is a lot of concern.
Honestly, there are serious problems concerning democracy, concerning 2015. There's no particular polling unit, no particular ward, no particular local government, no particular state that you can say, this place is a safe haven for politicians. In fact, the safer you think it is, that's where they go to employ whatever means they like to really win votes.
Tell us
so it's a national problem that we should look at globally.
Tell us about the simple majority rule, because there are those who have bandied it and some, of course, will misconstrue or misunderstand it. What does it say and how does it apply to this circumstance?
This is representative democracy. I mean, when it comes to you are voting, you are electing someone for the House of Reps or for the Senate or for the House Assembly, the condition, the rule, the guideline is that the particular candidate that has the highest number of votes in all the polling units where election is conducted. But there's also a clause, that's why we created that we form our own guidelines, where you could not really conduct elections, you are not obliged to declare a winner until election is also conducted in such polling units.
Does it have to do with the spread?
No, not with the spread.
Okay.
The spread has to do with the governorship and the presidency. This particular one is the highest number of votes won by a candidate, provided that you have been able to conduct elections in all the polling units where that person is contesting.
Well, tell us, what was security like on that day of this election? Because if you say some militants prevented your staff from going out, and even when the Nigerian Navy came, that still didn't work.
Security on Saturday, April 5, was high, was marvelous, and the security agencies really lived up to their task. A week earlier, on March 29, I had led a team of my own staff with the head of the Nigerian Navy there, the SSS, the Army, mentioning all the security agencies. We had gone around everywhere. They call it recce, or reconnaissance or surveillance. We had gone around everywhere. And even on the waters, we were on the waters for not less than 6 hours, combing everywhere, identify where we need to go on April 5, and also even meeting with community leaders and even some of the militants. So we had ensured that whatever needed to be done concerning security was really put in place. We started meeting because there's a committee in place. We call it ACCESS, Interagency Committee on Election Security. We were meeting regularly, almost on a weekly basis. We met in Akure about 3 times before the election. We met in Laje and SOD about 3 times again, making about 6 times. The Commissioner of Police is a joint chairman of that committee. I'm the other chairman of the committee. The SSS were represented, the Navy, the Army. Mention it.